Hey, this is Madalyn Sklar.
And Suze Cooper, and you're listening to All Things Audio. We are going to be talking about Threads voice notes today. Michael, I know you have been using Threads voice notes. They arrived on the platform last Thursday, I think, and we've been having a lot of fun over there using them, would you say?
Oh, yeah. And as somebody who came from Clubhouse, who's used to asynchronous chats over there, it was actually easy to slide into using on Threads. And in some ways, I kind of like the ability to thread some things together and leave a voice post and then say, okay, look at the picture after this post. And there's all sorts of interesting ways to go about this. It's not quite an asynchronous chat like Clubhouse has, but it's another tool in the toolbox, I think. And as an audio person, I love that it's an audio tool. So let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And how is it different then from Clubhouse? It's different in terms of who can see the voice notes, isn't it? Who can see these asynchronous chats?
Yeah. So I guess my understanding is you can adjust a thread post to be seen by different audiences. But basically, yeah, it is just a public thing. It's kind of like, posting or tweeting out into the public. You just put a voice note out instead. One of the cool things about it is that it will automatically transcribe that audio into your post. So then you can edit that audio if it got a word wrong, or if you just don't want to put the whole thing on there, you just want to put a little teaser of what you said. You could do that. You can add emoji. It does get rid of the audio clip if you add a link or an image. So there's that to remember. But it's a cool feature to have, and as an option for posting. And I prefer in a lot of ways to just say what I want to say and have it transcribe it instead of typing it all out. So yeah, I'm liking it so far. What do you think?
Yeah, I've quite enjoyed it too. I think you get 30 seconds to record, don't you, when you hit the button? And there are
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to work it out. At first, I was fairly sure you got 60 seconds. And whether or not they changed it or whether or not I just didn't know, I'm not sure. But when I went back to use it a little bit more earlier this week, it was certainly 30 seconds that I was getting. Got the little microphone icon there that everybody will know by now means that there's some form of audio in the app. You get your red button up, which you tap, and then you've got 30 seconds to say whatever you like. And some people will use that full time. Others will just say one or two words. And as you say, Michael, I love the fact that it transcribes that in kind of seconds, really, once you've pressed stop. It appears up on your screen and it kind of runs through it as a karaoke style kind of subtitles, reminiscent actually of what happens when you add the auto subtitles on Reels in Instagram, where you can kind of see it before you post it on your video. And that's really cool. It's great to be able to see the text and then to work out whether you want the text to be exactly what that audio note is saying or whether you want to tease it a little bit, as you say. I think it's very interesting that they've added audio into the app. I mean, we've found the reverse engineers, screenshots and all of that. We've been talking about our Threads going to add audio for quite some time. I'm quite interested as to kind of why they might have introduced audio. Again, at the moment, it kind of feels a little bit like a lot of platforms have fallen away from social audio. So to have Meta kind of come on board and bring something in with audio is quite encouraging, particularly when Facebook was so kind of, they just completely cut it off, right? There was just suddenly no audio in groups. We're not doing this audio only thing. We're not doing podcasts anymore. We're not doing it. And now we see this happening over here. So do we think that this is a play against Elon's everything app? Is that what Zuckerberg's trying to do? Just kind of compete in the realms of those things that Elon's trying to really stuff into the X platform?
Perhaps. But I also feel like we're seeing Threads becoming its own thing. It's not just a Twitter or X substitute. They are making it a very Meta product the way they want to make it, and there's a lot of similarities with X and posting and Threads and things like that. But yeah, I mean, X doesn't have this auto transcription function for audio, and really, I keep coming back to how accessible this is as well for users. You know, you may have people who are blind or they have hand issues or whatever, and being able to just record their voice and have it auto transcribe, and then even if they just need to do a little bit of editing after that, that's a lot more accessible for some people. Like I have finger issues, arthritis in my hands, problems with my thumbs. So there's sometimes I just don't want to type out a whole thing, and being able to record with my voice is nice, and it can just auto transcribe it. That's a really good feature for a lot of people. Even if a lot of people aren't going to use it, there are people who will find it very beneficial, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is an addition that is very inclusive in lots of different ways. And the fact that it's kind of fun to use it and try out is a bonus, really. As you say, there's lots of reasons why people might want to leave a voice note or might not have been able to kind of access the platform, until you've got this kind of voice addition to it. So it's really interesting to see them incorporate it in there. I was kind of thinking about, again, going back to like Elon's obviously feels like he wants everybody's attention on X all the time, hence why he's trying to make it the one place that you go to for all the things, right? And part of that is because of the ads and the, he wants more eyeballs on the adverts that are in your feed and whatever. So the more time you spend over here, all of that kind of stuff comes into play. Of course, we haven't got that over on Threads because there kind of isn't any promotional stuff at the moment. So again, I'm kind of wondering, like, from a business standpoint, what does Voicenotes add to Threads? It's keeping people on the app for longer, but there's kind of it doesn't feel like there's really a reason for that to happen right now. And I've given Morgan the mic because I wondered what your thoughts might be on this, Morgan, because I'm fairly sure this is something you might have thought about.
Yeah, you can think about it in a few ways, I think. One is the kind of network that Threads is trying to be. One is in terms of consumption and creation of posts. One of them is the link to Instagram. Probably start with the second one. So I think we could probably agree that text is maybe the most efficient medium to consume if you're looking to scan quickly and work out, the context of something. And there's a thought that speaking is actually the fastest way to create a post. So that there's that to a certain extent. I mean, that only really makes a difference if a lot of people use it. I was really interested in how they've done it in the sense that speaking is actually, you can think of it as just another way to create text of a post. So you always get the transcription, and you can change that if you want. But if you just want to make a post and you don't want to type it out, you can speak it. That's a way of thinking about it. The other one is the first one, which is what is Threads trying to be? And a few other decisions they've made suggest to me that they want to be a slightly more social place, a place where there's more back and forth conversation between people. I think one of the ways this shows up is if you're following people on Threads, you always see their replies, or your feed is often full of conversations. It's one person replying to another, rather than just a list of top posts. So in terms of having a conversation, if you can add in the option of having somebody's voice, then that's quite nice. You get a sense of who they are, you can hear the intonation. It's humanizing it a little bit. And I think the third one is the link to Instagram. So the way these things display in posts is very similar to how voice messages display in DMs on Instagram. And I think many of us still think of Threads as trying to bring over people from X. Their large market is going to be Instagram users. And having that familiarity with something from Instagram on Threads, I think, is part of the puzzle for them. And maybe some of that as well. The last thought here is they will have a read from activity in DMs on Instagram that voice note usage is increasing. And it might be increasing for certain demographics that they're interested in. So having a voice medium option on Threads could help with that. There is a big difference there, though, which we could talk about later on, is that, of course, your voice messages in your DMs are private. And it might be quite a different thing to post your voice in public. But, there's some thoughts anyway.
Yeah, and actually that brings me back round to the whole difference between this and the Clubhouse chats, because one of the queries I had when Clubhouse chats first came out was, well, who's actually hearing this when I record it? Which still kind of blows my brain a little bit. I do have to think about, okay, so it's my friends, and friends of friends might get access to it, etc. And the fact that this on Threads is very different. As someone, both of you, Michael and Morgan, have used chats an awful lot more than I have. Do you really feel like there's a different atmosphere to Threads than there is to, say, Clubhouse chats? And is that because of where that voice note is ending up, like how many different ears that could end up in, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think it matters in a number of ways, but maybe the main one is what the network is for. And because Threads is so close to X, it's very much you're posting a thought in the most basic sense, and it's public. Whereas on Clubhouse, you're more having a conversation with the aim to either feel like you're close with your existing friends or make new friends. So it's a group-based thing that doesn't have that public element. So it's not really performative, or you're not looking to gain followers. You're really looking to hear from people and have a conversation with people who are connected to people you already know, your friends. So I think those are quite different aims. I don't know. What do you think, Michael?
I agree with everything you said. Yeah, Threads is still very much a public posting based platform, and so I am of the leanings that, having been a big proponent of audio, that we should make Threads what we want it to be and use the audio and create voice posts and do interesting things with all the different tools that are in the toolbox there. Yeah, Clubhouse is very different. It's about conversations with friends or friends of friends, meeting new people that way, and really engaging in thought-provoking stuff. Well, some of it's not so thought-provoking. Some chats are not, but most of them have been. So, yeah, I would say Threads is not a place to go have an audio conversation, but you can create some really interesting audio content on Threads, definitely.
And I guess that's where, Clubhouse is the audio app. Like, you go there, you know that you're going to be listening to stuff or recording stuff yourself and joining in. Whereas there's lots of other things you could be doing on, on Threads. You can be text, you can do the GIF, the links, all of those kind of things. Whereas Clubhouse is very much clamped back down, niched right down back into the audio, which is probably why that more focused conversation feeling is happening over there, maybe.
There is one other way I think that you experience it is on Threads, very much familiar from X. Again, it's that one person replying to another person, or maybe one person threading together lots of thoughts of their own. And on Clubhouse, when you're in a chat, as soon as somebody else joins or you get a few people, you get this circle of people displayed. You get this sort of bubbles of people together. And the more people that join the conversation, you feel it. It becomes a crowd of people talking together. So I think that feels quite different too. It's very much group-based on Clubhouse, whereas Threads still feels a bit closer to a one-on-one situation. Yeah,
so almost Clubhouse is a bit more of a speaker's corner, maybe, than Threads might be. So interesting. I think as well, I was going to ask kind of what are some use cases that we might have seen for Threads. I think at the moment, and I've said this before about social media, all the different platforms have changed so much over the last couple of years that, I'm grateful for not being a social media manager anymore and not needing to change strategies and things, because I can see at the moment, people wondering how on earth are we going to use Threads? People use these social media platforms for business. We've got LinkedIn audio was doing kind of one thing over there, and you might have an idea about how you might use that around your business, where you've got so many different corporate links and relationships going on. And then you've got obviously what was Twitter, now X, totally changing what it does, changing its focus, still having audio. And if you'd incorporated that into a strategy, where does that now go and what does that look like? And now this kind of new platform grown out of Instagram, very, very visual, suddenly kind of there, very much a mimic, shall we say, of what we used to know of as Twitter, and now bringing audio on board as well. In terms of how people use these, it's going to be, I still don't think we've really seen any kind of levelling out of the ground in terms of use cases for things, because I think people are still very much experimenting, and that's what makes it such an exciting space to talk about each week, I suppose. I think what I would say, though, is that I've certainly, through using the voice notes on Threads, realised, like we were saying earlier, you there's kind of almost some best practice around it. If you particularly want someone to listen to your voice note, then potentially having the full transcript as the post isn't the best idea, because then there's no reason for anyone to kind of listen to the audio particularly. I mean, I guess that has swings and roundabouts. Lots of people say like, oh, I don't like voice notes in my DMs or on WhatsApp or whatever because I don't know what's in it beforehand. Well, you can totally see what's in it beforehand because it transcribes it so well. Or, you can tease it a little bit. And Michael, actually, I think it was you were doing this really, really well the beginning of this week that made me think, oh, hang on a minute, I'm kind of missing it almost here. And the point might be to direct people to listen to what I'm saying in the audio note. Do you feel like that might be a thing?
Yeah, definitely. There is power to our voices and the way we say things, and hearing something is very different than just reading even the transcribed version of that. And so I think there's a lot of potential to use the audio clips in their total to share some things that we would not otherwise be able to share without voice. And Morgan, I was going to ask you, because I know you need to go quickly, but like your trip to Sevilla that you did, the chat on Clubhouse, if you were to try to recreate something like that with Threads, with voice notes, what would your impression of that be? Would you want to do that? Or I'm thinking about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a form of that. I mean, part of why I enjoy doing it on Clubhouse is because a whole group of people that I knew were going to be there. So I felt like I was creating for friends and some new people. And I might feel less like that on Threads. But I do think there's a role. They need to get a couple of things maybe tweaked before that. One is that these things don't autoplay. So you'd have to scroll to the next one and then tap play and scroll to the next one and tap play. But it is possible. And the other one is getting people in, because Threads, I've said this before, maybe slightly ironic, that they don't actually display threads in the main feed, or not very well. They'll display the top post and the fact that it has replies. So to bring somebody in to something that is composed of, let's say, 50 different messages over time, you'd have to think about how to do that. I think someone's going to crack it, but it may not be visible that it's an extended audio story from the top post.
Yeah, and you're right. We spoke about this with Clubhouse. Like, how do you know how many you've got to listen to, and how do you get back to the beginning, and without tapping and tapping and tapping, all those kind of things. So it'll be interesting to see how Threads kind of works that out. And as you say, someone will work out.
Right, maybe it will be Michael. I'd love to see a multimedia one, because of course you can do videos and images as well as audio.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Definitely. Right, Michael? We've tasked you to go away and do the research on this for all things audio. So, you've totally got permission. Morgan, thank you very much for joining us. I know you've got to drop down now, but it's always a joy to have a chat with you, and I'm glad you were able to add your thoughts to our conversation about Threads. Thank you. A big thank you to our sponsors, Zealous.
I love Zealous. This has been one of the coolest tools that we've come across, and so we just had to make them a sponsor. If you're like us and you're doing spaces, maybe even podcasts, this tool makes it so easy to repurpose the content so you can use it like audiograms. Suze, I love how you keep creating these awesome audiograms after our space ends, and it's such a great way to keep the conversation going, take little snippets and put it out there.
We've wanted to create audiograms for all the different episodes that we've done over the last 2 years, and it just takes up more time, but Zealous has made it really straightforward. And actually this week, my new thing that I checked out with them is their new AI tools. So actually what they're testing out, it's in beta over there at the moment, but you can ask it to suggest where chapter headings should go within your audio, and also to create things like show notes and blog posts from from the transcript of your audio, which it can create for you, all of which is super useful.
Yeah, go check it out at allthingsaudioPodcast.com/zealous. They have a free trial. Highly recommend it. We both did the free trial, Suze and I, and we fell in love with it.
So, other things I was thinking about are what we might see in future on the Threads voice note stuff. Features that we might want to see. I don't know about you, Michael, but I'd quite like a countdown to let me know when my 30 seconds is up. I actually used a timer the other day because I was trying a specific thing that I was trying to squeeze what I was saying in exactly into the time that was there. It was really difficult and I would have really appreciated some kind of countdown.
Yeah, the little indicator is not super clear on how much time you have left. It's kind of like let's guess how much time is left before it closes, which is not real great for sharing your thoughts on the fly. So yeah, your point is well taken. And Clubhouse does have a countdown, so that would be useful.
Yeah, so I'm going to be waiting for that one to pop by. And I also wonder whether or not, with all of these different edit by text platforms coming up, we've got Descript for a start, is the one that obviously pops into my head, but whether or not we end up being able to actually trim that audio down in some way by deleting the text. Obviously it's transcribing it, and it's obviously not linked to the audio at the moment, because if it was, then when we delete the text, it would delete the audio, right? But I'm wondering if in future that might become a thing. Again, because I didn't know how long I had, I would generally still be in the middle of a sentence, or I'd have a couple of words at the end and I think, I just want to neaten that up a bit. It's the audio geek in me. I just want to trim it. And it would be really cool to be able to do that, and either by text or I guess by squeezing in the waveform or the timeline at the bottom. I mean, I'm probably being really picky now, aren't I?
Well, it makes me think we've gotten really good over at Clubhouse of speaking in 30-second segments. And I find that a lot of times I'm judging what I'm saying. I'm sort of calculating what I'm going to say based on how much of that timeline is left as the circle closes. So yeah, interesting thoughts, being able to edit them afterward. Maybe that'll be a pro feature. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We ain't seen nothing yet, probably, because obviously all of this is free at the moment, which is what has been kind of in lots of the articles that I've seen, is the fact that, they've added the edit and the thread post and the voice note, and it's all free. Whereas over here on Twitter, obviously, it took them something like 16 years or something to add the edit feature, and you had to pay for it. So, yeah, that's very true. What might a premium version of it all look like over on Threads? Interesting. I'm sure there's so much more to be said on Threads in the coming weeks and months as they continue to work on it, which they seem to be bringing new features onto the Threads platform all the time at the moment. Yeah, lots of different things happening there. So I was going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn audio events. We haven't spoken about LinkedIn for a little while. This was a story that Morgan actually drew my attention to earlier today. There's actually going to be more job cuts over at LinkedIn. It's the second time this year that they've cut staff over there. They're going to be quite specifically in engineering management roles. Product roles are being reduced, and also roles across R&D. I'm from all things audio's point of view, it does make me wonder whether or not any of that might impact LinkedIn audio events, and whether or not, with that product team being cut and their research and development team maybe not being as big as it was, will they still have the staff that they need to keep that running and to keep it going? It's not like we haven't seen the social audio fall away from the other major platforms that have tried it out. We spoke last week a lot about how Spotify Live had obviously not managed to continue with their social audio offer, and then Amazon AMP is going to be closing at the end of this month as well. So it would be, I feel like there's not enough people that really know that LinkedIn audio events are really a thing over there. But it's also one of those things that's a little bit like voice posts over here. Like, anyone who knows you can do it is using it, and anyone who doesn't, so, they don't really care. Or they come across it every so often and they go, oh, that's an interesting thing. I didn't know it did that. Yeah, so interesting to see whether or not that will impact the audio events over there. I've been having a go recently back over on LinkedIn with some success and some stress, I have to say, in using the platform. Michael, have you really kind of used LinkedIn audio events at all since it's been a thing?
A little bit, yeah. I haven't actually hosted an event, but I've participated in them, and I'm aware on how like the functions work. Like, for example, anybody who wants to come to the stage has to raise their hand. They cannot be invited. There are not pinned links. There's not recordable room or there's a lot of features that LinkedIn has never put into their product that Clubhouse and X Spaces and other platforms have, and yet LinkedIn has kept it going, and people do still use it. And I think you're spot on when you say that people who know about it and who want to use it are using it. Everybody else is like, eh. So I guess the question is whether it'll be worth it to LinkedIn to keep that product supported and going. It's certainly not a good sign that they're cutting back on team members, because it doesn't make you think they're going to expand the product any. So, well, I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, you know, a lot of people who I've spoken to about LinkedIn audio events have said, well, there's no recording, so there's no replay, so it's not useful to me. And that does seem to be the main thing that people have been hanging out for. Oh, you know, when there's a replay and I can share that with my connections, then I'll definitely use it. And you think, well, as you say, with the teams being cut, I think that's fairly unlikely to happen anytime soon. It's a shame, really, because I do feel like a lot like with X, formerly Twitter, you know, if you've got a community that you've built on a platform, which, you know, many people will be daily on LinkedIn, building up their connections and really trying to make those relationships very specifically for business and for work and all of those kind of things. And it feels like Voice would be a really great way to really boost that. We've spoken a lot about how you connect with people through talking to them and all the different detail and information you get from just having a conversation with someone that you don't get from a blog or a post or a newsletter or a photo of the office or whatever. I really feel like it could be a really useful tool over there. But yeah, I think you're right in that it will be very surprising if we see very much movement over there with the feature, if it stays online at all, which I hope it does. And yeah, I wish I'd have remembered that people have to request in order for you to bring them up, because I spent ages trying to work out how to bring somebody up to have a chat with me the other day, and then realised that yeah, they have to raise their hand in order to do that. And you know, over here on X, you can invite someone to speak, invite someone to co-host. So I was tapping around trying to do that, and in doing that, I then went onto the desktop to see if I could figure out anything. And then it switched my audio from the mobile to the desktop while I was live and trying to figure it all out. I mean, you know, all things audio has always been an experimental playground. And most certainly over on LinkedIn the other day, it was very much learning live. It was good fun. It was good fun once I'd got some people up with microphones. But yeah, slightly more stressful than I was expecting it to be when I hit the button.
I guess the product itself, LinkedIn Live Audio, is working for some people, and they're using it to network and connect with people and take those connections elsewhere. But I don't see LinkedIn Live Audio events as a place where people are going and staying around like they do with Clubhouse. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's also, once again, massive discoverability issue, right? Because unless you are... I mean, I kind of promote mine a couple of hours before I go live, just so that I can be sure that I can fit it into my day at the moment, because it's not become a regular thing as yet. But Monday afternoons seem to be a time that may well become a regular thing. But it's only people that will see the post where I'm sharing it. There's no kind of main central hub. And even when I'm trying to set up an audio event, I still have to hop around on the app to try and work out where it is that I've got to do that. And if it's not intuitive, then people aren't even going to stumble across it, right? They're not even going to think, oh, what's this thing? Let's see what this does. And for those who might want to find out what other people are talking about and why that, you know, who's going live and what are they doing and what's regular and what isn't and all that kind of thing. There's no calendar, there's no discoverability. You know, we've said from the start with all of these different apps that it is just so key and so central to be able to find the stuff. Otherwise, no one's going to know it's there. So I do really think these platforms need to spend more time trying to figure out how they will get people to the content, because every one of them has failed at that so far, I'd say.
I figured I might share a couple things about Clubhouse if you'd like, real fast.
Yeah, do. That would be great.
Yeah, so they held another live town hall this week. Last week was a chat where Paul Davison sort of just shared answers and so on to people's feedback in the chat forum. Well, yesterday he gave some more product updates, and real fast, they're going to be looking at putting a new tab in the Clubhouse app that is for finding friends. So they're moving the ability to see all of your friend requests to that tab, but also recommending who else might be a good friend for you based on the friends that you have and so on. So we're going to see that rolled out here soon. And also they're going to be rolling out a feature where you can see that a couple of your friends have been chatting with each other and you can actually join in on that conversation. So say you and Morgan were talking with each other, I could see that and go, oh, I wonder what they're talking about. I want to say hi, and I could join in and say hello. And I guess the people who've been trying it out internally have really liked it. And so that is another feature we'll be seeing coming soon to Clubhouse. So there's other little tweaks and things here and there with the hallway and trying to get people seeing more of what they want to see and not seeing what they don't want to see, but that's the highlights for now.
And we're available in all of your favorite podcast apps. We're out there, All Things Audio. You can also go to allthingsaudiopodcast.com as well.
You certainly can. And you can catch us here on Twitter and use the hashtag AllThingsAudio, and we'll pick that up throughout the week. So that's it for this week. But thank you so much to everyone that's been here in the space with us and those of you listening. And we'll catch up with you next week.
Bye, everybody.